Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Euro Trade. If you're here for the first time, my name is Marcus Doherty. I've been trading for 18 years. And 13 years out of that, I've been a prop trader as a mainly commodities trader. So we're going to be looking at my chosen instruments for this particular session, which is usually copper, platinum, sometimes natural gas, maybe towards the end of the stream when everything starts picking up. All right, so let's have a look. I'm still stalking this platinum short because we're still in that area from the distribution. So we're going to see whether they're finally going to make a move. Now it is the morning, so my voice is maybe a little low today because I don't want to be shouting. So let's... how do we do this? Let me see what's going on here. Oh, why is that? That's interesting. Somebody lowered my microphone. All right, let's kick that up a bit more. Let's try that. That should be a little bit louder. Is that any better, Andrew? 1 2 1 2. Just gonna try to kick it up so that I can whisper and then still everybody can hear me. All right, awesome. That should be a bit better. Right, so yeah, still stalking that short in platinum. I don't know whether I'm going to be getting involved in copper just yet. Something that's happened overnight is that we are seeing the core resistance rising massively up. Yesterday it was sat around 485 if I'm not mistaken. And today it's like all the way up at 491. So that to me would be maybe a bullish outlook. Obviously headline risk remains an issue, right? So we cannot neglect the headline risk, because at any point we might have a tape bomb, might have something that pushes these products into a risk on or risk off sentiment. And that means stay vigilant, right? Don't be all relaxed and going, it's summertime, there's nothing else. Because whilst the summertime can bring a little bit of dry up in liquidity, with all the things that we've got going on, we've got trade wars, we've got Iran, Israel, like we've got a lot of stuff on our plate that is bringing quite a bit of uncertainty, and that can have an impact on the commodities market in particular, because they can be sensitive. They are risk products, so they can be sensitive to those kinds of things. Ellie's saying good morning, the lighting looks very good. That is because I'm finally using the camera that I bought like about a week ago. I'm using the FX3, so I finally decided to invest in the big boy. It was time. So yeah, I used some of those payouts that I did in May to buy the new computer, obviously, but also this FX3. So hopefully that will be good. I was expecting with the lens that we bought that I would be able to do a little bit more of a zoom. Unfortunately, this is all the zoom that is giving me. So maybe I might need to invest in another lens, but you know, we'll work that out. Anne-Marie is asking, oh, Anne-Marie is in the chat. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Very good. Anne-Marie says commodities normally spike on war drums. Yeah. And she's also asking, what do you make of the low volume yesterday? So is that low volume in gold? Like, are we talking commodities? Are we talking equities? Let me see what happened in equities, because I did kind of have a look at it, but then since I locked up my account, I actually had a, you know, pretty relaxing day after that. Oh god, yeah, it's distributing, isn't it? The only commodity that I have, sorry, the only equity that I have on this particular live account is YM, so I don't pay for equities normally. Because, you know, I trade them like once in a blue moon. If we had Eurex, which I don't think we're going to have, I probably would have Eurex, obviously. But, yeah, so distributing. You know what? We've just rolled, right? So it could be one of the weirdness in the contract rollover, where not everyone is rolled just yet, and it's taking a bit of time. And of course, we could have some of the boys and girls with much deeper pockets, the institutional traders, maybe away on vacations, holidays. So that could be definitely a double whammy. Rollover plus summer. And what do equities do in low volume? They go up, right? so yeah, we'll see whether that rings true today. Not all the time. You know, you can have very range-bound days. Where are the major levels located? Wow, a lot of just looking at ES on the like options levels from Mentor Q. There's so many levels. Oh my god, what is going on? That never really spells smooth price movement. So here's what I've got. So let me just drag this over. So this is this is an ES chart. I mean, Christ. Like, really? It's not usually this dense. So whenever I see so many levels packed on top of each other, it's gonna give it time. It's gonna push time onto it to actually do anything. Could this be a consolidation? Yes. Are we in a weird time of the year? Yes. Is there a lot of headline risk? Yes. Major levels up closer to this area where we topped out recently in the last sort of week or so. So 61.25 would be definitely an area of interest, maybe to snipe some liquidity grabs and you know, and then maybe go down. But if that doesn't happen, I would probably be looking for this GEX1 at 60.50 to hold for some further upside towards that 61.25. I wouldn't necessarily fight it unless we get like there's a war, World War III coming up, then it's risk off and then equities usually fall. So look at that 60.50 as maybe an orientation point to whether they're going to be bleeding through it or holding as support. This is the only, you know, logical thing that we have right around this level. Further down, if they do kind of fall a little bit more, there's this HVL that's closer to the bottom of the entire structure. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting day for sure. What do we have on the calendar? Let's have a look at... I'm going to get to the questions in a second. Let's just have a look at the calendar. So today, what do we have? We have ZOO. We have German ZEW at 10 o'clock. That's coming in about 20 minutes. So that could impact DAX. I'm going to wait until that blows over and then see what happens after. But again, since on these streams we don't have DAX on Topstep, I'm actually thinking of maybe restarting my own live streams just to do, you know, the DAX trading maybe after. Not today. Not today. I just bought a new camera, okay? So give me a chance to build out this studio nicely before I figure out what to do with my own channel, because I've been a little bit lax putting out content, even though, you know, it is long form evergreen content over there. So if you want to check that out, it's underneath this video. Topstep has kindly put it down, so check that out. Lots of good stuff about market profile, volume profile, supply and demand, like all of that Good stuff. And then also, should you copy trade? Like I read on Twitter yesterday, or X, Twix, however you want to call it. There was somebody posting under Dakota's post about, being careful and taking it slow. And then someone went, they are in this cycle of buying cheap evaluations and not really finding much success. And now they're 40K in the hole. So I was like, yeah, that's kind of exactly why I made the should you copy trade video. Because, people get stuck in this, oh, it's cheap, let's just buy it. It's exactly how people get themselves into trouble with these like sites like Shein and stuff, like all of the stuff that allows you to buy on credit or splitting it in like 3 and stuff. It's a terrible idea because you think that it's cheap. You think it's cheap. But really, you then end up buying so much volume of stuff, whether it's clothing or evals, and you get yourself into debt without getting anything back. So stop doing that. We need to make sure that we're not putting up money into a venture that you're not seeing success from, right? So just like any other business, if you are starting a business, you're expecting that in the first 2-3 years, you're probably not going to be profitable. You're not going to turn a profit, but it's going to take a little bit of investment, upfront investment, sometimes a lot. Like, for example, I have many other businesses that, we kind of have, but I wasn't going to plow in, spend $5,000 on a camera when the YouTube revenue side was just like, nah, it's like, whatever. So until that grew, I wasn't able to say, yeah, okay, now I can, invest in this to be like super professional. But, at some point, business grows and you're like, right, let's open the purse strings a little bit. Now we got some money back. Now let's reinvest. It's all about reinvesting. It's not about plowing in as much money as possible in the new business and you kind of living on the breadline because you spent all your money on evals. Focus on one account. Try to make it last. Try to get funded. Try to make the XFA last longer than 2.5 seconds. And then get a couple payouts. Get 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 grand out of it. And then go, all right, I can buy a new eval now. Just because it's cheap, it doesn't mean it's a good idea. Okay? Vincent is asking, how can you buy that much evals? Well, think about it. If you buy 5... and you buy 550. Well, let's do some math this early in the morning, right? So if you buy 5 evals and each one costs 149, that's already 745, right? And this is what people do. They're like, wow, let's just buy 5 immediately. And I'm like, have you ever received a payout? No. What are you doing buying 5 evals? Like, what? And then if you get funded, let's say you YOLO it, you make it, right? You get funded. That's another 149 for the activation. So we're already up at 1,000, nearly 1,500. Just for the 5. Just for the 5. Nothing, right? And then if we want to push that to month 2, 3, 4, 5, let's say you've been at it for like a year, you got no payouts, but you keep buying evals. We get to about 17,000. That's just buying 5, right? 5 per month. That's all. If you buy 10 per month, that very quickly mounts up to a cost of about 35,000. So you buy 10, which is the max that you can buy per month at Topstep. You're looking at 35,760 upfront cost without any payouts if you keep blowing up. So why do you do that? Like, first of all, if you've never gotten a payout, or if you've never managed to hold on to an XFA longer than a week or even longer than a month, I would say, just buy the 50K, $49, right? Keep your costs down, guys. Like, I know that everybody thinks that, oh, prop firms, they want you to fail. Well, they exploit the fact that most people are Muppets, for sure. But, that's not really the fault of the firm. That's just like they are actually giving you a very cheap model of entry into the business that used to be very expensive. It used to be like 25,000. It used to be minimum 10,000. Like, I don't know whether you guys know this, but back in the day, there was a business model that stated that had a collateral in it. So they would give you all the fancy stuff that Topstep gives you, you know, the risk tools and the risk team, and you know, access to an office space, and you know, shared desk space, and a whole bunch of stuff. But you had to put up a collateral of minimum 10,000. So you would walk into a firm with 10,000, not with 49 and 149, $10,000, right? Minimum. You would give them that. They would provide leverage. Okay, so they would pool that with their own funds, and therefore you could trade larger than you could with the initial 10,000. So that was, you know, a very good thing. But if you would blow the 10,000, they would boot you out the door. And sometimes it was 25,000. You know, there was like, you know, different models, and you could pay more for collateral and get a bigger risk allowance per day. So same thing, but the cost of entry was just like enormous, right? So yeah. Rish, how much is your balance in live? Right now, not too high. I think it's about 15K. I don't want to look at it. I will only look at my balance towards the end of this month because I don't care, right? I want to focus on the actual setups and process. So yeah, I just don't really want anyone to, and also there's payouts. Every time we take payouts, and then people are like, oh, why is your balance so low? It's like, well, I'm taking a payout. It's like, none of us want to keep, you know, $500,000 or 100 grand or something. You want to make that money work for you. And then now we have this nice incentive where Topstep gives you extra cash when you make X amount, but then people end up chasing that, and then they get themselves into trouble. So we don't want that either, right? This is why a lot of us have our balances blocked out, because we don't want to focus on the money. In fact, I hate focusing on the money because I have different size accounts. Sometimes I'm just starting a combine, and it's like, well, I only have 4.5K there. And then we have the bigger accounts where, you know, I have 50 or 100K, and I'm like, okay, well, that's a different risk allowance. But when I put it in ticks, and you will see every time I'm in a trade, it's always ticks. It's never P&L, right? It's never actual dollar amounts. And I've also taken out the red from the negative balances as a color because it was affecting me mentally. It was like this big red thing staring at you. Now, that might not impact most people, but it was definitely having a negative effect on me because I associate red with very bad stuff, with like blood and with negativity and with like, you know, heightened emotions and anger and stuff. So I don't want that. I have my negative P&L, if it happens, in periwinkle. It's like, you know, very nice. What is my YouTube personal channel called? It's just called Market Stalkers because we are a community. It's not just me. When I started Market Stalkers, it was always meant as a, ooh, hold on, platinum. It was always meant as a community of traders, and then I found that the people that I was working with were very shy. They were very shy. So I ended up being the front person. Yeah, out of the releases, we also have the core retail sales at 1:30 p.m. my time. That's a ways away, but that could be quite jumpy for equities. All right, platinum tried to go higher. We're still using that 1250 as a pivotal area. So that's the... Did this not save my things? Oh, no, it did. But this is not ASR high. I'm just going to correct that. That was from yesterday. And I'm just going to pop in an initial balance marker here. Which is this. So we're failing the auction here. Similar setup to what we had yesterday. I do need to wait for another 10 minutes to see whether we actually hold below this 1250. And because we only have 10 minutes left, I'm going to stay on the 15-minute chart here. I'm going to change this to PL. Then we're going to see whether we can get a nice squeeze down. Patrick is saying, "Come on, Deeyana, stop teasing us about trading us." I look. It's not up to me, man. I'm just, just an on-air personality here. If it was up to me, yes, we would have DAX. I would prioritize that because that is what we trade during London. It's not easy, but hey, we've got platinum, we've got copper, so we can eke out a few bucks. We'll eke out a few bucks. Let's have a look at these questions. Disruptive Panda wants to know what indicator are you using to show the gaps and core resistance. Well, these are actually just by me, so they're not. Excuse me. They're not automatic levels. I take them from Mentor Q, and then I spend some time plotting them before the live stream every single morning. So that is what I do while I have my coffee and while I'm getting ready, right? So that is my task for the morning. Then I will go to take my quantitative extreme, so average session range high, which is the London specific exhaustion level. And then I take the 24-hour ADR high and low, also from my indicators, blood tick indicators on another platform, and then I plot all of those here. And yeah, but Mentor Q is what I use for options. Vincent wants to know, hi Deeyana, can you elaborate a little on the impact of the rollover on the market? Yes, of course. Usually the volume gets split between the old contract and the new contract, and then we start seeing some very weird moves. That can be either in the form of complete lack of momentum, just like sideways movement that is chopping around doing absolutely nothing, or it can be these like bonkers unwinding moves that just keep shooting in one direction, because everybody who wants to stay in the contract has to switch into the next month. So therefore there's this like big influx of all of this volume coming in as a result of that. So very, very weird. Doesn't seem to follow too many technicals when those things are happening, because there's bigger things driving it. And then, if you add a little bit of headline risk and stuff, you will get a day where crude oil just goes absolutely insane. Not insane like it used to, because, to me, back in the old days when crude oil was my baby, insane day in crude oil would be like 600 ticks. Now, we still see that in something like RBOB, which is gasoline futures. So if I had to, if somebody was like pushing me with a stick, like trade the energies market, crude oil or not, or RBOB, I would be choosing RBOB. Now, yesterday we saw RBOB still not quite fully rolling into the new contract, but as soon as it rolls, it will be tradable again. But if it's patchy, let's actually have a look at RBOB. Look at that. This is where, you need a bucket and go vom. Because, like, it's moving, but the dome is not populated yet, which means that most people have not rolled into this until I at least have, like, 1, 2, 4 contract. What happens with these sort of markets is that you get so many irrational jumps through all of these prices where we still haven't populated. So, RBOB is off the table for now. Crude oil, this is what you want. At the very least, this is what you want it to look like. But, I mean, this is so thin for crude oil. What? So, crude oil really needs to have about 15 or 20 contracts per multiple prices, right? So, not just like run, then 16. Run. 10. That's too thin for me. So I would want crude to be like between 20 and 40 contracts per every single price, maybe 4 every so often. But yeah, all of that means that we're still in rollover, and it's just rolling today. I mean, today is the official final day. So yeah, 5 minutes until we can deem the failed auction. In platinum. So Shant wants to know where there are These are which assets, commodity, I don't know. These are precious metals, right? So you have copper on the left, platinum on the right, copper symbol for Topstep is HG, so is rhythmic, I think. CQG, if you have CQG provider, like for example AMP, they use CQG, which is an excellent data feed, or data feed, however you want to say it. They use CP for copper, which is, you know, CQG weirdness. But so yeah, we're gonna see if we can short this platinum here. Whoa, a lot of cash required there. So let's see. Let me just move this over here. So 350. Let me try and find some smaller. I mean, I suppose if we go above the core resistance, this would be done. Maybe I can use this ribbon to limit risk, because I don't really fancy using 70 ticks for a stop. Maybe once 10 o'clock comes, maybe that zoo can give us a little bit more pullback towards 1250. But yeah, this is too much risk for me. So need to wait for a little bit of a pullback, and then maybe we can. Oh, I've got a dog underneath me. Who's this? That's Rimmer Bear. Okay. Didn't know he sneaked in. Suddenly something brushed up on my foot, and I was like, what? All right. So yeah, the assets that I trade are usually precious metals or energy markets. So you will see a lot of copper, you will see a fair amount of natural gas. Every so often, if I see a good opportunity, I will do crude oil. But if I can, I will avoid crude oil. Yeah, so it is what it is. We have to adapt, right? I've been a crude oil trader for 12 years, but crude oil changed, like it had a personality transplant last year. And I was like, okay, is it back? And then it would seduce you with like one day of like 250, 300. And I'm like, okay, that's it. This is the normal range. And then the next day, nothing. It would get stuck in 70 ticks. And it's been doing that all last year. And after about 6 months, it took me, because 12 years is a long time to trade something, to see it with such huge change in behavior. So I just thought to myself, okay, I think I've given it enough time. Let's move on. Do you have a base hit target? I have no monetary targets. When I come to trade, I have zero expectation of whether I'm going to make $2,000 or whether I'm going to make $200. And I also don't care. I trade whatever the market gives me. Yesterday I traded smaller because A, it was Monday. And B, copper recently has been a little bit sketchy during the London session. So most of my bigger trades came during the COMEX session. So naturally I was like, well, if I get one, that would be nice. But at the same time, I still hit my target, I think, of about 60 ticks per trade minimum. And I got that. So I was like, I think I got more actually. Didn't I get like 70, 80 or something? And I will more likely look at my targets in ticks than any monetary values, because the position size is variable, right? Position size will be dependent on what do we have going on, what time of the week, what day of the week is it? Am I up or down on the week? That also plays a part. How is the market behaving? How much stop loss do I need to use to spend on this? Now, with platinum, the reason why I'm being so picky is because there's no micros, right? Platinum is like one one mini and that's it. I mean, there is market platinum, but I don't know whether anybody trades that. But we don't have it on Topstep anyway. So, I can't control it that way. Therefore, I have to demand a better price. I have to demand a price where I can get involved for about 35 to maybe 50 ticks for the stop loss. And then to try and, fit in everything with my strategy. That is what the puzzle is. That is where, I'm pretty careful. And every time I'm listening to chat and I'm like, oh yeah, let's just do a trade, I decided I wasn't going to do that anymore. So I don't, I'm not itching to trade. I'm demanding prices that I think are pretty relevant for where we are, what's going on the daily, how the market is developing, the fact that we have multiple overlapping values. I don't want to be long, right? So yesterday's pump above the 1250 wasn't in my plan. And eventually I did short it very late in the day on another account. But it took forever, right? It took forever. And I think I only shorted it for like lunchtime in New York. So that's like 5 p.m. my time. And it did work. It was a nice fade into the end of the day. But it took forever. Like I was waiting for a setup in platinum that spoke to my plan for, like, I don't know, 6-7 hours. Yeah. But when it comes to targets, I do not have any sort of monetary targets. I think monetary targets are very bad, especially for the more novice traders, because then you will end up chasing. You will be like, oh yeah, I want to make 500 today. And then you get to like 470. And like, I fell short of my target. And that's not, this is not the market where you're like a salesperson and you can just like hit up more phones to get that one more sale. Like every time you put in another trade, you're risking more. It's like, at that point, you're chasing like $30 and risking all the 470. So to me, that has a negative risk reward. If the market gave you 470 and for whatever reason you decided to exit, just take it, man. Like, just take it. Use the Hoag's sort of 90% rule, even when it comes to any profit targets that you might be chasing. But I would generally move away from all monetary targets. For most people, they don't work. I don't say that there aren't some people that don't do well on monetary targets, because I know I've met a few of them and they're fine with it. Like Coach Robert is one of them. Like, he doesn't care. He can just stare at the P&L and it just doesn't affect him. But for most people, for me, I get really irked whenever I'm looking at $260, I'm like, oh, God, that's just like not a lot of cash. But then that's my own problem, right? That's actually a good day. The fact that I'm used to maybe making $1,000 or $2,000 or even more per day, depends on which account I'm trading. That's my problem, right? It has nothing to do with the ticks, and it certainly has nothing to do with the market. You have to live as a trader. You have to live with the decisions that you make. Now, I traded micros, and 70 ticks in 3 micros. Yeah, that's going to be about, what, 250? That's about right. But did I reach the target of whatever I was planning for that trade, ticks-wise? Yeah. Should I keep going? Well, no, because that was that was the target. There was no other setup at the time. So I'm like, let's leave it alone. It's all good. So yeah, monetary targets, I don't like them personally. And I don't think that they work for 97% of people. NGU Future says, since you have been trading so long, do you think your edge has improved, or is it more dependent on market conditions, how big your edge is, rather than how much experience you have? That's a great question, NGU Futures. I think it's a bit of both, if I'm going to be honest. I think I've gotten better with situational awareness. All right, let's try, let's try maybe doing this short in platinum. And let's use the ribbon and maybe just 55. Yeah, that's okay. So I know that I'm a lot more confident over what levels will work, purely because I've stared at all of this for so long, right? I've stared at my levels in a systematic framework for well, let's say since I became a prop trader, so let's say, and let's give it maybe another year, because obviously that was a change in my way of looking at the market. So let's say for 12 years I've been trading the same way. But over time, the level of making mistakes has diminished. It's not that it never happens. I'm human, right? I can have a day off where I'm not reading the market well. and I'm just like, okay, D, it's time to stop. But, that's the difference. I think the difference is me knowing my mental triggers more than anything. Knowing that when the market just gets completely range bound in a very tight range, like if we have a nice range on a 30-minute chart, we have a neutral day. I'm actually excellent at those days. I love them because I can swipe them from either side, make sure we don't have single prints on either side of that, and then just go, okay, well, I'm just going to snipe it from the top, snipe it from the bottom. I'm very patient. In fact, that if I have any sort of strengths, that will be it. I'm a very patient trader. I don't freak out. I can hold trades until the cows come home. I have cows here, so, until they come home, I can hold trades. But did my edge improve? Yes. Is it still the same levels? Yes. But what's changed? Well, I've changed. I've observed the same levels in a multitude of environments, market states, low volatility, high volatility, medium volatility, headline risk, no risk at all, summertime, all of the stuff that the market can throw at you. So I'm going to go up here. Okay. Everything that the market can throw at you, eventually you start to figure out what are your own triggers, what irks you. And I have two. I have markets not going anywhere, and I have me not realizing the volatility is kicked up and then using the same stop loss that I used to use in lower volatility times. But then let me give you an example. For the first 3 days of Trump tariffs, I always use like 35 ticks on DAX in normal market conditions. 35 ticks. So I saw a setup, didn't check the ADR, ASR, ATR, none of that. I was just like, yeah, it's always 35 ticks. I've been doing that for like 5 years. So I popped in a trade in DAX, and I looked, and it was just gone. Like it wasn't even a second after So I was like, what? So, and again, me being me, I'm like, maybe it didn't fill. So I clicked again. Same thing, but this time I watched it. I was like, what? It's like that's gone. So then I went to, okay, what the hell's going on? So I went to see what is the average daily range, what is the ATR, average true range, over the last sort of 9 candles, and I realized that's climbed up to like 110 ticks, not 30 and 35. So I'm like, oh, that's what's happened. So this time around, I did not allow that to go, oh my God, I have to expand my stop losses. Now what? I just went from one full DAX, which is 25 ticks, 25 euros per tick. I went down to 1 and 2 mini DAX and expanded the stop to 130. Also expanded my targets to 300, thinking there is no way this is going to hit. Guess what? I went to make myself a coffee because I don't generally babysit my trades. I'm not one of those traders that, enters a trade and I'm like, no, is it going to survive? I'm not like that, right? I just go, okay, that's in. Now I need to wait. And if that doesn't survive, that's fine. But my stop loss sizes are usually an appropriate size so that I can survive the next sort of 30 to 60 minutes with no drama. If in that time frame I get a move in my direction, that's all good. If I don't, I will then reevaluate in the next 30 to 60 minutes. So I don't freak out. Yes, I do use lower time frames sometimes for timing, but the stop loss size is not going to change. I'm not going to be lowering the stop size to like 15 ticks unless I'm doing like a liquidity grab, like a stop run and reverse trade. Then I might consider using a slightly smaller stop because you've already had the liquidity grab. So there's no there's no need to risk any more than that. So again, it will be a different type of a setup. But this one, you know, on platinum, this is like a swing trade. I am planning, if this goes, to basically hold it for as long as the market allows me, right? Now, it might be like yesterday that we get to COMEX and we basically just have one move in one direction and then it starts to reverse. That's a very normal behavior, in which case I will then take whatever is on the table if this trade survives. But I'm always thinking from the position of if the trade survives. I'm not hopeful that it will survive. I have no expectations of it. I just know that at this time we're having trouble around 1250. And we need to stay below 1250 in order for my trading idea to work out. If we don't stay below 1250, then the trade is invalid anyways. So I will not be freaking out. But like I said, two mental triggers that have helped me, and this will be individual for everybody. For you know, for you it might not be the same. But generally, once I adapt to the high volatility environment, I thrive in it. I absolutely thrive in it. I'm like a kid in a candy store, right? I'm like, wow, this is amazing. I can get like 300 ticks in the space of like 15, 20 minutes. It's awesome. I know that high volatility freaks people out. It probably would have freaked me out as well if I was a novice trader, if I'm being super honest. But at this point, I know, I'm like, I don't know. It's just, I'm not afraid, I suppose. Does that make sense? In fact, I'm more afraid of markets that are not moving than the ones that are moving. So, yeah, because I know that in the markets that are moving, I get an opportunity to adapt and adjust or readjust. Whereas when it's not moving, if you miss like that one opportunity when it does move, you're done. And that scares me more than any craziness that might happen in the market, right? Is it because I can maybe read the good move, so if it's moving, it's not a problem? I don't know. I don't know why, but it's just experience, improving your edge over time, keeping track of your mental triggers, and then always staying aware of them, you know, never allowing them to grab you and just choke you like Bart Simpson by Homer, right? Because Homer, whenever Bart does something wrong, he goes, "You little..." It's very, very 80s style parenting in Simpsons. Okay. NDB, let's have a look. Thanks again for your good information. Missed the singing though. Could you share your current view on silver? Yeah, we can have a look at silver. Again, I think that unless you already have like a fat buffer in, you know, in your XFAs, silver is a bit tricky. Even micro silver. Okay, so this is a new computer, so I need to see what contract we're in right now. Because silver is also one of those that they can jump through contracts, and I have some old chart, but I don't know whether that's correct. So let me just make sure. Sin. Okay, we're in sin right now. Oh man, I gotta laugh at some of these abbreviations that see the signs. It's sin. Okay. Comex, okay. Let's have a look. Let's use this one. Now, anytime I'm looking at something that I haven't looked at for a while, I like to start from the monthly chart, really zooming out just to see what the hell they're doing. Looks like this is all-time highs. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but it certainly looks like it's all-time high. Just gonna compare that to gold. Yeah, so silver looks stronger to me on the monthly chart. Wow, silver at 36, that's crazy. New high, right? Let's not overcomplicate it. New high. If it comes back down into the previous reversal point, which was 35,960, I would deem this new high to be just a grab above the previous high. Then maybe we have a chance for a bit of a reversal. But right now, as it stands, we have held into the second week above that area. So wouldn't necessarily be looking for a reversal until that area gets reached again. And then it's like do or die. Do we go lower into the range or higher? This is what I will be focusing on. On the daily chart, there is a bit of a distribution, but I would think this is more a reaccumulation. Why? Because again, look at that area where they smashed through the high. This is a daily chart. Let's make that bigger. So they smashed through the high. And you see what I mean? They dipped below it. You know, support or resistance turns into support. Very basic. And now it's got all these buying wicks. I would argue that this is passive buying. Somebody keeps buying this. And yeah, so I wouldn't be surprised if this just keeps going higher. There is a little 9 EMA that we're like glued to. It's not moving. But I would be a little bit bullish on silver if I saw this. Let's have a look at some options levels, because I haven't done those on silver. Okay, so we have the core resistance at 38. Is there another one lower? Let me plop that on the chart, because it might be easier. Let's change this one. Yeah, so gamma will higher up at 36,650. If it starts to go down, so my former high is just below 36, but they actually have two put support levels around 36.05 and 36. So definitely interest at that level. So those would be like my sort of top and bottom areas to fish for. Anything else in between, it would be like a shorter intraday trade. But if you get to those points during the course of the day, that's what I will be looking at. So yeah, but generally bullish. Generally bullish. More bullish than gold, I would say. Because gold, they seem to have stopped making higher highs for now. Yeah. Hopefully that helps. Mango High says, hello, what's the difference between a liquidity sweep versus a stop run? They are the same thing. It's just new kids on the block calling old age things that we've been saying for decades. I've only been trading for 18 years, but I know the stop run and reverse. That was what we used to know it as. Let's go back to micro copper here. And also to keep an eye on my platinum here. I'm going to go up to the 30-minute chart. Gonna move this here. That's the initial balance, those two little thingies. Yeah, so stop run and reverse. That's what we used to know the liquidity grabs as. And then as more and more people started repackaging some of the old ideas, they were like, oh, we're going to call this liquidity sweep. Sweep, liquidity grab. So now you have, you know, a multitude of people as a result of various YouTube influencers calling it a liquidity grab. And also, you know, when you call a single print FVG or something, and, you know, that's also not the best. Okay, platinum, messing around 1250. I'm going to drop down to 2-minute chart. Are you going to come, sellers? So let's see if market makers adjust here or not. It's popping back outside of the initial balance here. Let's see. I need to concentrate. So I'm looking for the market maker move, right? Usually they're pretty obvious on a 2-minute chart. Even if they kind of overshoot, they, you know, you get up to a level, they overshoot, and then they kind of smack it back down. So far, not seeing that. So we'll see. We just had half an hour ago, we had ZEW. I need to check what that's done as well, because that could be changing things. What are you doing? Are we going up or are we going down? Make up your mind. Take me out or do something. They're just like, we're going to cause you as much pain as possible. Okay, closing that. Now we wait. We go back to a 30-minute chart and we wait. And I'm going to check the ZEW because I was talking, totally forgot that was going to happen. So let's see. ZEW sentiment. Yeah, it came out pretty strong actually. Okay. Came out pretty strong. Alright. Alright, no setup. Now we wait. It's annoying, but it is what it is. So now some people will be like, Dee, why don't you go long? Because that's not in my plan. It's like if I want to go long, I need to see it somewhere near 1,226, 25, maybe even lower to 1,200. That would be long areas. So another reason why I don't want to go long here. We opened inside of value. Whenever that happens, there's a very high possibility, well, much higher probability of this turning into a nothing move and still messing around like 1250, 1260, just being like in that very large zone. And until it establishes a bit more structure, I just don't want to put any more money on at the moment. So it is what it is. When we have an outside of value day and it starts to pop outside of value, that's a stronger setup. This one, it's not. Like most of the times, for me at the very least, whenever I tried doing the continuation trades, and you know, we don't have single prints, we have excess here, but we don't have any reason, and then overlapping candles, so inside bars. Yes, it could go up for sure, but do I want to be in that? No. If I'm doing a breakout trade, I don't want to see any overlapping candles, especially not on a 30-minute chart. It's a massive time frame. We need to see stair-stepping higher or lower. Not like, oh, we tried, but we failed. But now we try again. It's like, yeah, F off. Don't want to be in on that. Alex is asking how often do you use nicotine and what milligrams? So Okay, so I do use a patch. I find that it helps me, and I do vape. I'm gonna put it out there. I don't vape on TopstepTV. I vape in the intermissions. Whenever Eddie is talking about, VIP and stuff, I usually have a little vape break. I mean, we all do. Let's face it. It's quite funny when you get into a green room with like Hogue and Eddie and myself, and we're all just like puffing on our vapes. But yeah, I find the patch good for the mental side of things. Vaping, I don't know, that's more like doing something with your hands. So I use the half a patch of the step 1. So that would be, oh God. So that would be what? About, I don't know, 12 milligrams, 13 milligrams or something. And I needed to work up to that. Now, the reason why I started using them is because of the illness that I have. Because I had this thing which is sort of, they don't know what it is. There's very little research about it. But it's kind of an autoimmune thing. It was caused by vaccine injury. And I ended up with a whole host of weird problems. So one of the things that did help, because it looked like my illness was eating into my ACE2 receptors. And that's not good, because those receptors are the ones that carry the signals from, the heart and the brain to the rest of your organs. It's a pretty important thing. So there was, in the community, there was this thing where somebody said, Bon, can you be quiet, please? Somebody said that nicotine actually helps to double and triple your ACE2 receptors. They don't know why. So I started on a quarter of the step 3 patch, which is like the smallest patch. And I actually got sick from that because I hadn't smoked since like 2008, right? I used to smoke real cigarettes, not for very long, but I stopped in 2008. Did not miss them one bit. I did not care much for them. And literally out of a need to try and make myself better, I decided to go down the patch route. And it took me probably about 6 months before I could handle the full patch of the step 3, which is like the weakest one. But obviously now I've been kind of on it for 2 years, and I found that every time I put the patch on, I was able to just completely focus my mind on everything. I'm not advocating this, okay? It's entirely up to you what you're going to do, and please consult your doctors and stuff, because obviously they're going to tell you, don't do it, it's bad. However, I do know that for some people who have ADHD, I don't, but I do find that sometimes I have trouble focusing for some reason. That only happened as I got older. Never had that problem when I was younger. But obviously our brains age. Maybe I've had, we do have some slight neurodivergent people in my family. I do believe my niece is one of them, one of my younger niece. I don't know, maybe even my sister. She's in the chat. So, yeah. And I found that whilst I was trying to heal my other issues, it had a very welcome effect of being able to focus me. And I suffered from brain fog as a part of my illness. It was horrible. I was like, some days I couldn't even speak. Like my husband would be coming into the room and I was bedbound for 18 months. Not fun at all. And he would be going, do you want a cup of tea? And I would get like so confused. I would be like, what is he asking me? Oh, tea. Oh no, decisions. do I want to? And then I would just get like locked in, like just blankly staring at him, and he would be like, do you want a cup of tea? And I'm like, I don't know. He's like, all right. Okay. And then he would just leave, and I would be like, what is happening to me? What is going? And obviously you can't trade when you're in that state, right? There's no trading. I couldn't even answer whether I wanted a cup of tea, whether decide, to go long or short on copper or whatever I was trading back then. So it was a very welcome change, I've got to say. I know it's not good for you. I know everybody's like, stimulant is not good for you. Yeah, caffeine is not good for you. Life is not good for you. Let's face it, right? You have smog. Everybody lives in cities where we're inhaling a whole bunch of stuff from like exhausts and everything. Nothing is good for you. But if something helps you with your goals, I don't like it if it detracts from your goals, then it's bad. If it helps you with your goals, I would argue that it's means to an end. But obviously don't take my word for it. Do your own research and consult your doctors if you already have issues. I don't want to be responsible for anybody here. You're all adults. We're all adults. So yeah. Final Cyanide says, how come you entered here? I'm sure you said it didn't fit your risk profile. No, it didn't fit my risk profile when it was down at 43. When it climbed back closer to 1250, I could use a 55 tick stop. Okay. If I had entered at 43, I would have had to use 70 tick stop because that's where the reversal happened. So I was using not the full excess. I was just using this area of the 30-minute candle that popped back into the initial balance. I was using that as my risk limiter, right? Hopefully that makes sense. And I was banking on 1250 being defended. If you watched my previous videos, I use edge of the initial balance if I'm short, and then also these GEX1 levels, call and put levels to be defenders of the idea. If they break through like this one, it invalidates the idea unless we bleed back below it and once again show weakness. This is now an invalidation. So we're above initial balance. That's not what I wanted to see. We're above 1250, which today just happens to be at the same area as the initial balance high, 1250. We still have this access here. We still have access. So it is possible that they just spend an inordinate amount of time here and then come COMEX, they start to roll it over. But I can't keep, clicking and stuff. I tried once. I'm not willing to try again because this is starting out very slow. And I just want to wait for the better levels, maybe up here somewhere, closer to the 1300. Also a possibility, because if you remember yesterday I was talking about two areas, 1250 and 1300. So 1300 did not get reached yesterday, but I had the ADR lower. It was somewhere in this area yesterday. So that exhausted the average daily range. That's why I was able to run a short into settlement. But again, I didn't run it until like my 5 p.m. Just for reference, it's 10:30 a.m. right now in the morning. So maybe this is the same thing. Maybe they want to run it up, exhaust the ADR somewhere around 1279 all the way up to 1300, then reverse it, and then we go back towards the core resistance. That's also a setup, mean reversion back to the calls. That could happen. So I have a couple of hypos, but the first hypo for today was that London is going to bring us that move below 1250. Didn't happen. It's fine. Let it go, So hopefully that makes a little bit more sense now. Same analysis that I was doing literally for the last week. Stalking it at the monthly supply. Then we got that daily bearish engulfing, indicating sellers are around. We just need to time them better. But, whenever we kind of go above the core resistance, that's not what you want to see, because you want to see market makers adjust below that level. We're going to go down, not back up. And if we go too far up, then that becomes target. It doesn't become the starting point. So it can be used either or, right? 1300 is a round level. Yeah, it's a round number, correct. So yeah, right now I'm not seeing anything else, so we probably are gonna just sit here and chat for another few minutes. Yeah, okay. So we have yeah, Streezy is quite into it, isn't he? He literally wakes up every day, creates a new name, comes, I don't know where he's located, but if you're located in the States, that's a lot of effort to get up this early and to come create a brand new thing so you can troll me. Just look at how much energy. I'm starting to think that Streezy has got like a shrine of me somewhere with like voodoo dolls or something. So yeah. And he expends all of his energy trying to come up with new names that are nothing like the other names, and then using the same types of insults over and over. It's like, get a life, dude. Move out of your mom's basement. Please. Do something. What's going on here? Oh, fillet of fish. Okay, Mackie D's, are we? Yeah, I quite... yeah, Braz JL says, too much McDonald's is not good for you either, but I get so happy when I eat a Big Mac. I am not really a big fan of Big Macs, but I'm with my sister. I like the filet. Mango Heist says, you mentioned FVGs for a second, also known as single prints. Thoughts on the concept of how people teach to use it as an entry signal. So for me, the single prints are not necessarily an entry signal, right? They can be a good continuation. Like, for example, let me give you an idea here. If we had a long move, or let's go into the ICT waters. I'm not an ICT trader, by the way. I'm a profile trader, and all I've noticed is that the dude has decided to repackage a lot of the a lot of things that exist already. So he would call it a displacement, but it's single prints, right? Leaving the FVG, leaving single prints behind. We don't have that today. We have a structure being built. But if we had, you would then be staring at single prints that have come up. Let me see if I can draw that. Let's change the color. So I'm going to kind of try and draw a candle really pathetically here. Okay, so can we fill it? Okay, that'll do. So imagine that this candle was actually one big sort of jump, and then it leaves single prints behind. Why doesn't this allow you to like actually draw over the candle? Yeah, and then let's say the next candle is opening up here. So now you have just two possibilities. You will either, the single prints will either remain as the beginning of a new distribution, maybe somewhere higher up, or they will be taken out. But let's just say that they move it far away. So single prints remain. And they start to move it away. They go all the way up. And now you're left with the single print somewhere down here. Once you get to that area again, so from somewhere higher up, you can actually use them as support. Sometimes I've noticed that single prints will be tested, but then if the move in the run up to the single prints is quite extended, it actually increases the chances of it reacting as support. So you go all the way up, leaving single prints, you come back to it, and now you have that area as a potential new support. Sometimes if it's too close to the current price, which is I believe what ICT is doing. So let's say we've left single prints and then we start to hang somewhere around 1260. And suddenly you get the move back down. So what you're looking for then is what the profile traders have called the single print fade from like 1986 since the beginning. That would be a different setup. So that would be no longer looking at single prints as supports, but instead looking at a possibility of fading through it and maybe reverting to wherever it came from. So it can be a jump start through the level that where the price moved pretty quickly in the opposite direction. So there's two ways of looking at it, right? And that's how Dalton teaches it. You know, you can use it as a confirmation of a sustained auction happening, or you can use it as a stopping point. And, you know, we just come up too quickly, couldn't make a new higher high, hangs there, then rolls over. Does that make sense? And does that help? Global Expert Future says, hi, I'm French. You use derivatives. But these are futures. They're all derivatives. I don't understand the question. I'm sorry. Do you use derivatives? Futures are derivatives of the either existing commodities or stocks, with the exceptions of the indexes. They're cash settled, but they are also derivatives. They're derivatives of ETFs or indexes or a whole bunch of other products that exist as investment vehicles, right? So yes, would be the answer to that, I suppose. Yeah. Final Cyanide says 18 years trading is a long time, 3 years behind you. Hey, 15 years. Nice. It's always good to see people who have stood the test of time. You know, it's like a lot of people get into this game and they sort of live fast and furious, you know, like, let me get a Lambo, let me get this. And then they build up huge followings on social media, just pushing Lambos in people's faces. And then they're like, oh, you know, this was very stressful. It's like, yeah. No shit, Sherlock. Yeah, but anyone who stood the test of time, that's what you want to see. This is why we do this, right? We want to see longevity. We want to see risk control when things don't work out. We don't want to see people punching monitors. I know it's great TV. Look, I know. You know, people on the internet, certain YouTubers getting annoyed or not using a stop loss or going full port and then losing their shirt and then some, and then going and then smashing their laptops or whatever is around them at the time. It's great TV, but it doesn't spell longevity. It spells a roller coaster. It spells people who are very young and they haven't found themselves yet. And now I would say that, you know, young men in particular, I think they have the drive because of the testosterone and stuff, and it's probably a lot more difficult to keep your ego in check when you're very young. And I'm gonna say that I think that trading is not necessarily a young man's game, because with age comes maturity, comes certain emotional control, or maybe emotional understanding and intelligence that a lot of people go through. So, you know, I was a bit hot-headed when I was in my 20s as well. I was nuts. Like, my mom was always like, Dee, don't put your head through the wall all the time. Like, you don't have to, you know, do things. And I'm like, no, it will happen. And every so often that D comes out, but luckily not very often. It's okay. Final Cyanide says, I like to watch others. It's good to see how others trade differently. Maybe it's because I have autism or I'm just weird. You're not weird. We're all weird. You know, everybody's bloody weird. Why do you want to be normal? Anyway, normal is boring. Global Expert Future says it's the name of an institute in France, which is a focus on gamble on puts and calls. Yeah, those are just options. I mean, you know, options are also derivatives, and they're derivatives of futures. So, yeah. Yeah, some people know who I was referencing there, but we're going to leave the names out of it. Yeah, I use MentorQ. MentorQ is run by Fabio. He used to work for Bloomberg. And, yeah. Pice as well, PL running, yeah, but it's running in the direction that I don't want it. So it's running through supplies, it's running through the bearish engulfing on the daily, and for me personally, I'm looking for the mean reversion that might bank me 500 ticks through all of this, maybe even 1,000. We'll see across a couple of days. I'm not interested in chasing maybe 50 to 70 ticks here, because I do think we're due for a reversal. Like, not just I think, but you know, if you look at the monthly chart where we're coming from, this is a supply, you look at the daily chart, as soon as we got in there, we created a bearish engulfing, very strong. Now we're distributing. I did say, I think it was yesterday or the day before, it might take a couple of days for this to set up, right? I didn't say, oh yeah, we're going to touch the bearish engulfing and just go. No, in my experience, usually it takes at least 2 days. So we pop into it, then we have another day of dicking around, then we finally start to roll over, and that is the point where you will see a single direction day. Why? Because we're at a swing extreme on a very large time frame. Once they recognize that this is a bit too high for them, you will see a huge move down. That is what I'm fishing for here. I'm not looking for short-term trades. So I don't care about, you know, tiny little trade not working out. And I was also in on one, just to test the waters, right? If I wanted to go in full size, I actually would like to get involved between 1280, with keeping in mind that 1250 is now giving support to this move. So I'm not interested in that. I would like to see what happens between 1280 and 1300. Okay. That would be my area to start that move. Somebody asked about the overnight trading. You can't carry over positions from the electronic close. So there's no swing trading in that regard. But mind you, whenever I'm doing a swing trade, I will start it either during London or early COMEX, and then I will keep it for 5 hours. And that's how I do swings. So it's intraday swings. It's not multi-day swings. We're all intraday traders here. I haven't properly traded swings, especially not through outright futures. I trade them through options, but not through futures directly, because, you know, you would have to use a small position, big stop, that, like, it just doesn't really fit my needs if I'm going to hold something for a couple of days or 3 days. And even those swings of mine, they are between 1 and 3 days these days. So I'm not really interested in swing trading. I am interested in using the appropriate strategy at the areas we're currently located in. Now, for example, copper is in the middle of nowhere. So is it good for me to be looking for some massive trade when price action on 30 minutes looks like this? It's like overlapping candles, not really doing anything. Spikes all over the place, wicks all over the place. This is a range-bound market. I'm not going to be looking for 300 and 500 and 1,000 ticks out of that. I'll be looking for maybe 35. If I get 50, brilliant, right? Matching strategies to the chart location. Very important. I mean, look, Braz, I'm up for people creating multiple income streams. And, you know, for his age, he's done well. But, you know, he was just a little bit too typical. You know, you saw the emotions happening every time. Every time. If you look at professional traders, if you look at all of us who've been doing this for like donkey's years, that means many years in UK slang. You basically just learn not to react. You're like dead on the inside. It's literally just another trade. Like I've personally done, I don't know, 10,000, 20,000 trades in my life. I don't care about one trade. It's like, why do you put so much stock in one single trade? Like, so much. For me, trading is fun, and it should be fun. It's a fun way to make more money. It's like brilliant. And a part of that fun is to make losses not emotionally problematic. So if you keep losses relatively small, especially if you're, you know, expecting something to happen but it hasn't quite happened yet, just pop in a tiny position, pop in a micro if you have to, right? Test the waters. And then the little tiny loss that you get is not like haunting you in your dreams, like your worst nightmare. And then you get up with that heaviness in you and you're like, oh my God, now I have to claw back $3,000 that I've effed up yesterday. if your account balance is like, 150, 200K, 300K, that's nothing. But if it's 6 grand, like somebody yesterday was like, should I size up from 5 micros to 3 minis? And we were all like, how much have you got? And I was expecting like, 50K or something. He says, I've got 6,000 buffer. Definitely not. Because, 6,000 will be gone. It's like one Trump tweet when he wakes up. It's like, whoosh, all over. Fundamental is asking me, D, what is your first language? You are very good at English. Thank you. My first language is Serbian. Believe it or not. But full disclaimer, I have been speaking English since I was very young, thanks to my sister. My sister was born in London because my parents lived here. And she taught me how to speak English from when I was 2 years old. I know it sounds weird, but she actually started teaching me when I was super, super young. And I don't know what possessed, because she was 12 at the time. I don't know what possessed her to start showing a 2-year-old kid letters, because most people can't read. But I remember vividly her showing me like the alphabet, and I was like, this is A. In English, that's A. And I was like, okay. And she literally taught me how to read, so I can thank my sister probably for my proficiency in English. But I still, at this point, I'm probably bilingual. But I still have a bit of an accent. I can't make up my mind, because obviously I spent the first 20 years of my life in Belgrade, mostly. And then, obviously, I moved here. But it was like, I think I still had a heavier accent when I moved, but it was also a little bit more American, because I grew up watching American movies, right? So it was very messed up. And then I started, having British people around me. I went to an English university, and I was like, okay. And over the years, the English accent started to creep into my accent. So now I'm just like left with this weird, some words sound English, and now I'm on TopstepTV, and then mostly the people that I communicate with are Americans. So I find myself saying words like demand instead of demand. And I just tend to take on people's accents around me. It's a bit weird. Some people think I'm making fun of them. I remember sitting next to a friend of a friend. So he was American. And by the end, we were kind of drinking and stuff. So I had a couple of glasses of wine. And I started mimicking his accent. And then he was like, are you like making fun of me? And I was like, I'm sorry, what? And he was like, well, you don't sound English anymore. Like, oh, I'm really sorry, man. Like, I said, it just happens to me. It's not on purpose, But yeah, so my accent is a bastardization of all people around me, and then some Serbian thrown in every once in a while. It comes out. Sometimes I say words really weird. And even I hear it out loud, and I was like, that was odd. Okay. My sister says, you are a smart kid. Why not? Yeah, it's just, teaching a 2-year-old who couldn't read yet. It's like reaching a bit. But hey, thank you. So there we go. Hi, everybody. Is London Open not happening anymore? It is happening, but Aaron, I believe, is on a break. I know that he's traveling right now, so I think Aaron is away for this week. But, obviously don't quote me on that. I just saw it on the schedule that he took some time off. I think it's still happening, so yeah. Sandy says, it's our musicians here picking up accents and languages and dialects. Absolutely, yeah. Yeah. There we go. Andrew says he's off this week and will return next week. Would you take mean reversion on copper again? Not today. Not today. I just don't think we have enough. First of all, there's no strong levels. There's GEX1 at 480. the call resistance that I used yesterday, it was all the way up at 485, and that's where we were when we were running this session. Now we have the core resistance at 91, and then the next strong level is, I believe, at 470. So we're nowhere near any strong levels. There is no mean reversion here. For mean reversion, you have to bust a mean in order to revert from it. So we don't have anything of the sort. So until we either fall down or rise back up, there is no setup. There is no setup here. It is my pathetic attempt at a German accent. So sorry. Maybe I should just stick to my Eastern European, because I'm pretty good at the Eastern European accents, you know. And it's odd, because, you know, you meet Serbian people, and they all have, like, a very specific foreign accent, and I wouldn't call it, like, Russian, because Russians have a very hard accent, you know. Whereas Serbians are more like they're trying, but they still have some words that the R's are very difficult for them. So they all kind of try to do the Western R, but it all kind of comes out a little bit weird. Almost like we're like Portuguese. That's what we sound like when we're talking. And also Serbian has got different accentuations than Russian. We sometimes have similar words. And by the way, I can't speak a word of Russian. There's some words that mean completely different things, right? Completely different things. And then some of them that are kind of similar. But every time I have Russians around me, they are, you know, talking in Russian. I understand nothing. And then I talk in Serbian and they understand everything. So you tell me how is that fair? It's not fair. It's not fair. The Euro accent. Oh, yes. Should we do the German accent? German accent is now very kind of, you know, little bit camp, I suppose, but I kind of like it. You know, it's no longer that harsh. Like they call, and I got this from Stephen Fry in QI, they actually call the mobile phone handy. Oh, voiced mine handy. Where is my mobile? Voiced my handy. I know, yeah, she's very cool. Green Beanie says, that's really cool your sister doesn't trade, yet she is in the chat to support you. I know, she's very sweet, yeah. She's my one and only sister. You know, we have a big age difference between us, but, you know, once we start chatting, we just yabber on for about 2 hours. You can't stop us. Mango Heist, sorry for all the questions, but what is a supply and demand level and how do you identify them? In the simplest terms, supply is an area where it's a swing extreme, right? It's like highs and lows, obvious highs and lows. Where did the biggest originating moves come from? That's what we look for. So if I go to the monthly chart of platinum, it will become pretty obvious. And the larger the time frame, usually, if something's trending, it will be pretty obvious. So let's just focus on this chart now. So where is the most obvious originating swing point that brought us a sell-off? This whole thing. Where is the most obvious originating low that brought us the buyers? Here. You can do this for any chart. However, the more overlapping candles that you have, the less easy the moves will be. So I will only look to get involved once something kind of starts trending if I'm looking for swings. If it's not trending, then I default to like more range bound strategies. And that's where copper becomes not as directional as it normally is, so you can't just kind of go, it's busted initial balance, let's go. You can do that when it's trending. You can't do that when it looks something like this, like in platinum. Now platinum broke away, it got up here, and now as you start to go through the time frames, it's distributing. Now whenever it distributes, there is a 70% chance that it's going to go into a liquidation. What's liquidation? Another sell-off. What's that? Potentially another supply. So now we're waiting for that. If I'm looking at the weekly chart, The most recent area that brought us buyers was down at sort of 900, just sub 900 on this contract. Now, if we go left to see when was the last time we were up at these levels that weren't traded through, so we're looking for an area that wasn't traded through, we come up against a similar level between 1280 and 1300 that is also popping into that same monthly supply, which started a little bit earlier. And this is a long time ago. This is like years. So that's how you do due diligence on where we are and never get confused. Oh, why did the sell-off happen? I don't know. Maybe because 4 years ago there was lots of selling there and they deemed that that's as high as we're going to go. So now on the daily chart, we have no good demand areas. Why? Because neither of them have much of a wave prior to making the low. So I would classify this not as a demand, but just as a speed bump. And again, the only obvious thing is this one that I drew on the weekly chart. But now I can get a little bit more zoomed in level for the proximal distance. What is that? I call that the conterminous line. Why? Because it's a common price point before the market shifted back the other way and shot up. So I call that a specific name. And now what I want to see at some point this week is for this newly formed reversal to give me a move below it. Ergo, rejecting it and causing yet another market shift, causing yet another supply here. That's the logical conclusion, right? If it goes higher, maybe the market conditions have changed, and that's okay. But 70% of the time, technically, when you go back, these will give at least a limited move down. You know, it doesn't have to be all the way back down, but somewhere to the middle, right? Maybe back to 1100s. That would be a good move. But yeah, supply and demand is a whole concept in and of itself. It's got like 5 or 6 different conditions. So you have how long did it stay away from the level? How fast and furious did the price move away from it? Or was it more gradual? All of that kind of plays into the strength and the quality of an area. What indicator are you using, D? Here I'm just, Jen, I'm just using my eyes. But if I use indicators, it's going to be my indicators and or Mentor Q options levels. So it'll be Blotic indicators, which I use on AMP through an ancient platform, MetaTrader 5. We are making stuff for Ninja right now, maybe even for Topstep X. But yeah, we'll see. We shall see. Thomas Z wants to know, or Tomas. Hey D, what do you think about markets before FOMC? Worth to trade on days prior to FOMC? Equities tend to be a bit meh before FOMC. You can either have like super irrational moves, just like unwinding moves that keep going and never stop, and you're like, really? Really? But I dislike trading on FOMC day itself, okay? How about motive wave? Well, I don't have indicators for motive wave, so that will be quite pointless considering that I spent a lot of money commissioning the indicators and partnering with a software architect who led the team of 3 people who built the indicators for me. And nobody else can give me the levels that I wanted to see that didn't exist at the time. My quantitative extremes are my quantitative extremes. I use them in a very particular way. Other people just use ATR. I don't. I use it by session, and then I count them back a certain number of days. And then I also dynamically track them. That didn't exist. It still doesn't exist. Everybody else who tried to copy us, and there have been a multitude of people trying to copy Blatek, they did it wrong. So now they're doing things that they're plotting levels that are not really quantitative extremes. And they're like, well, this never gets reached. Yeah, because you're calculating it wrong. Sorry to break your bubble. But yeah. So yeah, indicators are mine. All right, I think we're going to finish it up because I don't see anything else setting up for today. We're going to wait. But yeah, be careful around FOMC days, and especially because we also have Juneteenth. That is a holiday. In the States, markets are closed. So a bit of a weird week. FOMC along with Juneteenth and summer months and rollover. It's like, is there anything else that can hit us? Is there anything else that can hit us? Senna says, because I thought you were building and distributing. Yes, but it's only a team of 3, okay? Anytime you grapple with a new platform, a lot of the times they have their own language. So you effectively have to code everything from scratch. Unless it's got like an API access, which makes it a little bit easier, but you still have to change the code that will send the objects into it's a can of worms, right? So literally every single platform has their own ways how to plot levels, and then you have to change all of that inside the code. We have a lot of like, just to give you an idea of what our indicators can do, right? So right now, if I want to go for a back test, I just click a button and I go back, and it plots me everything with no lag, no nothing, right? And then if you want to check what the market looked like on 10th of June at Asia at 1 a.m., you just go to that level, click. You can see what the 4-week profile looked like on volume profile. You can see what the Tokyo did. You can see the entry that I took. This was one of the trades that banked me $1,000 on my live. So for me to rebuild this for all of the other platforms with no lag, and this is multiple indicators, by the way. It's not like just one. I have probably about 3 indicators that are plotting in real time with no lag. Do you know how much time we spend optimizing this so it doesn't have a lag? It was literally like 2 years of creating these products. 2 years. Constant, every day, 8 to 12 hours. So, you know. Good News says, how much do you make per month, roughly? That is a very rude question, and I feel like I'm not going to answer that, because how does that help you to know how much money I've been making after 18 years of doing this and building 3 different businesses? Because it's not just, you know, it's trading related, all of my businesses, but sometimes it's software development, other times it's options, other times it's algorithms, other times it's licensing of the algorithms. You know, it's a bit of a rude question. How much do you make? How do you feel if somebody would ask you that in real life? Not very good. And I'm not one to push money in people's faces. I'm not going to be like, I made this much money and blah, blah, blah. No, it's rude, because, you know, you say a number and then people start looking at you through that number. It's actually more rude. And I'll tell you what, when one of my friends saw by accident the bank balance that I had at the time, she completely changed the way she behaved. You know, she was somebody who didn't make that much, so like a very regular person, I would say. And then I got one of my directors was like, oh, hey, can you just transfer some money over here? And I was like, okay, let me do that just through my phone. And I did it, and she was sort of looking over my shoulder just randomly, and she saw the bank balance. Suddenly she was like, oh, why don't you pay for the lunch then? And I was like, I'm sorry? She's like, well, yeah, I mean, really. I was like, it's a £20 lunch. I mean, really? From then onwards, she didn't pay for anything. In fact, I found it very uncomfortable. We were out for dinner for one of the friends' birthdays, and she said, oh, let Dee take care of it. It's only £200. Like, that's peanuts for her. And I was like, okay then. We're not going to be friends for very long. So that is the impact that people don't expect. You think that it's all fun and games when your status in life rises. It's not. People start looking at you as if you're a bit of a dickhead because you got money. And I don't want that. You know, I don't push Lambos in people's faces. I don't push results, material results in people's faces. I just want to focus on trading. I don't care much. I still drive my Mini Cooper S. I do have a nice house, but, you know, how does that help you to know that I make a certain amount? It's like, it won't. What will help you is to watch the emotional control, the levels, how you get in and out of trades, what is the, you know, the loss limit per trade, maybe, what is the loss limit per day in relation to the account balance that you have currently. That's helpful. Anything else is being too nosy and too into people's lives. Like, don't forget, even though we are on air, some of us are very private. You know, very private. I know that my husband don't likes to show his face ever. Like, he only now, like last week, came to say hi to Hogue. I've known Hogue for 10 years. 10 years. And we talk reasonably frequently. Only now, after 10 years, he's like, all right, I want to say hi to Hogue. All right, come over. All right, guys, let's finish it up. How to change the color of RPL. So that is going to be in MISC. MISC. Here, you can change it in this area. Yeah. All right. Yeah, let's finish it up. You will see me today on Lunchbox Trading with the lovely Anne-Marie. I believe we're on together. Are we together? I hope so. I always look forward to Lunchbox Trading. Yes! Yes! It's going to be Eddie, Anne-Marie, and myself. So yeah, come join us for a bit of chat about the market structures, volume profile, market profile, and also a lot of randomness, which is always very welcome. Thank you so much for being here with me. This was the Euro Trade. I'm Marcus Talker D, and I will see you a little bit later. Enjoy the rest of your day.